Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping.
All right, welcome in. It's 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. This is the Mighty 1190 WIXE. Richard Yercheck joins us this morning, and very first question come in and said, "How you doing, Richard?" He said, "Living the dream." We busted out laughing.
It is a dream, man. Everybody wants to live in Union County, and that's why we're all here. I mean, some of y'all were fortunate enough to be born here. The rest of us were smart enough to move here.
Yeah,
well, I've never heard it put quite that way, but
yeah, that can be true.
Makes
this
sense.
is all the other stuff aside. You know, I mean, this is local politics, but all that aside, this is a great place to live.
It is, but we can't really put it aside anymore. Well, let's jump into it. Of course, you're chairman of the Board of Education, and the Board of Education and this group, Citizens for Adequate Public Schools, were in court again yesterday for a preliminary injunction hearing. Basically, they want to stop the redistricting, right? And the judge gave them to a deadline of this afternoon to do what?
A finding of fact. So a lot of, as I understand it, I wasn't in court. I was working my part-time job that pays all my bills. And basically they have till 5 o'clock today, and so do we, to present the judge with factual information. So you've made statements, you've made claims. Now let's show it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prove it.
So the lawsuit says the school board violated open meeting and public record laws with their vote back in March. The plaintiffs allege that the vote was discussed in a private meeting, and they say the scripts that the council members John Crowder, Rick Pigg, and Michael Guzman read from that night are proof of that. The lawsuit also said that the school system was slow in responding to the open records request made by the public, and now I guess the latest salvo is y'all threw 50,000 pages of documents or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be closer to 100,000.
Well, there you go. So, what is your take on? And I realize this is in court, so
certain things we're not going to talk about.
I understand. So feel free just to tell me. Well, does this lawsuit have merit?
No, not in any way, shape, or form.
All right, how come?
Open meeting laws, the violation that they're talking about would mean that a quorum of the Board of Education got together and had a meeting outside of the public eye to discuss something that they wanted to do.
Which is what they're alleging.
That's what they're alleging.
Okay.
It never happened.
Okay.
So they have to show proof today that happened.
Okay.
And because they brought the lawsuit, the burden of proof's on them.
It's on them.
They have to prove that it did happen. Not y'all don't have to prove that it
Are they
didn't.
saying they've got this proof?
No.
No.
They're showing from what I can see at this point in time, they're showing ancillary pieces of, well, we're showing you this. The fact that Mr. Crowder's motion was typed up was proof that Mr. Crowder was involved in a secret meeting. Well, no, that just means Mr. Crowder's motion was typed up. If you watch C-SPAN, when a senator or congressman goes up to make a motion, they don't do that off the top of their head, especially if it's contentious.
Right.
You don't want to screw it up. Right. So you write it and then you read it so that you get it all out the way you need it to be. Well, that's what happened, but that's not, that doesn't mean there was an open meetings law violation. So,
Okay. So while discussing the resolution passed back in July, affirming the school board's redistricting vote and including the changes and lines to include the Millbridge development and some about 9 other students, one of the attorneys said the logical extension of their action is that they can violate laws as many times as possible, then pass something when they're caught. Well, of course, they're going to say that. He goes on to say it flies in the face of North Carolina open meetings law. He said they alleged that the script was written and agreed to prior to the meeting. Inman asked if his position is that the very existence of the scripts indicated a violation of the open meetings law. Sistrunk said absolutely, noted that multiple board members read from a script. Sistrunk said it was part of a pattern that showed that the board did not care about open meeting laws. Not necessarily. I don't think. It's just me talking.
There were 16 different meetings where redistricting was discussed.
If I remember right, y'all had a bunch of open forum meetings for people to come. I remember seeing it on the news. People said
Exactly. And not to mention all of the emails that they have copies of, all of the social media, back and forth. This has been a very open process. Again, it's without merit.
Is there a possibility that, let's see, what's the comparison I want to make here? We're having a big to do with the bypass now, and the environmentalist groups file suit, and they got it stopped, and now they're filing suit again. And everybody says this time they're filing suit just because they have to file suit. Is this one of those? Is this one of those we're doing it because we have to do it lawsuits? I mean, it just I don't see where it goes. I never have understood the argument. I certainly understand somebody not wanting their kid to have to move schools. I get it. I understand it. But the argument legally, I don't get. It's like we can't afford to build more schools. We don't need to build more schools.
This county's $400 million in debt. Right. Prior to redistricting, there were 3,500 empty seats from K through 12. 3,500 empty seats, and the county's $400 million in debt. So, I'm conservative, guys. We're not going to spend a tax dollar if we don't have to. Well, we didn't have to. We needed to adjust the lines, and that's what we did.
Well, hold that thought a second. You mentioned about adjusting the lines. What's the whole contention about the maps?
Well, the maps. What they're saying here is that there were. The contention is that they're saying that there were lines redrawn after the March 4th meeting. Right. Well, in a February 18th meeting, open meeting, at that time, the board by consensus told staff to clean up the inefficiencies as this process moved forward. Okay. So that's where you're looking at, and a lot of that was taken care of when Millbridge was put back together, because Millbridge was a divided community, and when they were putting a connector road together, that motion was made that road has to be put back in there. That road's going in, so that neighborhood will stay together. Well, then when you leave that part of it out of the 50 or so kids that we're talking about, there were another smaller group, and I'm going to give you for an example. So I'm painting a picture here. Okay. This isn't an exact from the case. All right, this is just an example. But if you've got a road going down to, in between two houses, it's not necessarily a neighborhood. Child on one side of the street's going to go to one school, and child on the other side of the street's going to go to another school. So we're sending two buses to go to two different schools.
On the same road.
I got an idea. One of those kids walk across the street, and we'll only send one bus.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that...
So those were the type of things that were fixed in
That's correct. But we gave staff the authority to take care of all of that. And that was done by consensus of the board at the February 18th meeting.
But this group CAPS is calling foul to that?
They're calling foul to that.
And for what reason? It sounds like common sense.
Well, because they're looking for something that will help make their point, make their case.
So, and just so listeners know what you mean, when you say Millbridge being divided, what that means is exactly what you said. There were some kids in that neighborhood that went to one school and other kids who went to another school, and y'all made it as to everybody in that neighborhood goes to the same school.
That is correct.
That's been going on forever. I live just on the other side of Stack Road. If I lived a quarter of a mile the other way, I would be in Monroe School District, where I am in Forest Hills. That's all over the county.
Correct.
It's like that.
So CAP says that what is illegal is that the Union County Board of Education voted for redistricting and then later redrew the maps that went into the plan without having a public hearing about it. And you're saying this is cleanup stuff.
It's cleanup stuff. Dr. Ellis, if you listen to the meeting, the meetings back in the end of February, middle end of February, you'll hear her talk about the onesies and the twosies. It's certainly more than ones and twos. But basically what that's talking about is there are going to be inefficiencies. And you don't see those until you get deeper into the process. You don't see those necessarily until the lines are solidified. And when we start looking at how buses are going to be traveling through the county, well, then you're gonna find those. And instead of trying to have lots and lots of meetings over one child here, 4 kids there, 3 kids here, we gave staff the authority to go ahead and clean all that up at the meeting.
Okay. This group, Citizens for Adequate Public Schools, has raised $35,000 to fight the Board of Education. What is the Board of Education having to spend on this particular lawsuit? Well, first off, that, and where's that money come from?
Well, as I understand it, at this point in time, we have an agreement with our insurance company that if we get sued, they will pay up to $100,000.
Okay.
So after
not necessarily coming out of the
not
the
yet,
budget.
not yet.
Yeah.
Once we go over $100,000, then it'll come out of the budget. Now,
Did it go over that?
I haven't looked to see where it is right at this point in time. But we just sent over 50,000 documents that had to be reviewed so that we didn't violate any. If you don't want a mistake where your social security number or your child's date of birth or something like that slips out in an open.
They said it's taken 6 months to get these documents. Why is it taking so long?
Why? Because there's over 100,000 pages of documents that all have to be reviewed, because everything that they wanted has to be looked at by an attorney before it goes out. Because if you've sent me an email and it relates to redistricting and you've put personal information in that email, well, we got to make sure that we don't send that back out.
Can't send everybody's social security numbers out. Yeah.
And somebody's got to do the work to look at that. And you can't, we have a general counsel. She's excellent, but her job is the overall school system and all the other things going on when we're in
monumental amount of paperwork. Should this be decided today in court? I mean, what can happen today?
I think what I understood was that this information findings of facts will go to the judge today by 5, and that sometime the first part of the week that Judge Inman will make a decision as it relates to this.
A decision as to whether the case should be pursued, or a case of you violated open meeting law or you did not.
Yeah, she, as I understand it, she can make a decision today that would put an end to the question: did we violate open meeting laws? Because their case is that you need to stop this because of
that.
And if it's found that you did not violate open meeting laws, then the basis of the lawsuit as they filed it, that means there's no lawsuit.
Well, in that vein,
yeah.
They'd have to come up with something else,
right,
to try to stop redistricting.
Now, and understand that the statute reads that the Board of Education, and this isn't just Union County, but the boards of education in all 115 districts in North Carolina have the authority to change the lines anytime they want to. We don't have to have any meetings with, the statute doesn't say you have to have forums, that you have to bring in parent input. They don't. So if you look at other systems, Mecklenburg being one, there's very little public input in a lot of these, because this is looked at as a business decision for the school system and for the county. And in a lot of ways it is. Now, you're affecting children and people's lives. So this board, trying to be as open and transparent as possible, said, well, let's have a series of open meetings. Let's get feedback from these folks. We know they're not going to be happy, but let's do this. Let's have the dialogue. But at the end of the day, the law says that the Board of Education can redistrict, when they need to. Mm-hmm. So this judge, if she were to try to stop the redistricting process, and I think she even said that she wasn't sure she had the authority to do that. I read that somewhere, I believe, that she would be going against the Constitution, saying this is what the board has the ability to do.
Okay, so hopefully we'll find out this afternoon, or
it'll be next week. So first part of next week.
The other thing I want to ask you about, the commissioners now. It gets kind of complicated. Maybe you can simplify it some, but anyway, the Board of Commissioners now has to fund the school at current levels for the next 3 years with like a 4% growth every year, something along that line, right? So anyway, to fund the school, they had a over 15% tax increase, average home, couple $100 a year. Going to hit a lot of people hard. It's got nothing to do with the $91 million.
Nothing to do with that.
If the $91 million verdict is upheld, and that's being looked at, if that's upheld, it would put us way over the tax rate of even Mecklenburg County. what could that do to schools in Union County? I mean, a lot of our growth is the fact that people coming from Mecklenburg County to escape these high taxes. If we get to the point where we're higher than Mecklenburg County's tax rate, then obviously it's going to slow growth. You may even have some of those folks moving back. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think there's a lot of assumptions in there. So, so the way the question is if the $91 million is upheld, is the county going to write a $91 million check? They may be put in a position to have to do that. I can't speak for anybody on the board but myself.
I understand. You're one vote.
I'm one vote.
Yep.
I would not push for that. I would push for something structured because we all live in Union County. There is absolutely no reason to, try to hurt the place we live.
True.
Now, I'm one vote. There's a lot of work to do because with all the contention over all of this, there were a lot of folks that just said, okay, just back the truck up. We'll take it in pennies, nickels, and dimes. But once we get to that point, then we'll have to make that decision, and there'll be a lot of negotiating going on.
It would be quite painful. Let me ask you this. The school board wasn't requesting $91 million. This is what the jury decided that the school board should get. Do you need $91 million?
Yes.
You do?
I can justify every penny of the $91 million. Factually.
Bigger picture, though, is at what cost? I know you were bothered by the fact that with the commissioner's budget, they chose to break it up as to what the budget cost to run the county, and then separately what the schools are costing.
Right.
And you didn't like that, but from a taxpayer standpoint, I kind of like it.
Sure.
I mean, it kind of shows me where my money's going.
Well, but you want all the facts, right? You want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples.
I do.
All right. And the way that has been presented, you're not getting a fair comparison.
Okay.
Because that comparison is only looking at ad valorem taxes.
Yeah.
Well, the county brings in over $83 million in other tax revenue that they keep just on their side of the budget.
You're talking about water, sewer fees, all that.
No, well, water and sewer fees stay in the enterprise fund.
Right.
I'm talking about other tax revenues that come in. I brought you some notes that I'll leave with you.
Okay.
That'll show you where in their certified audit all of this is discussed.
Okay.
But it's not, it's the county artificially is applying this additional $83 million in non-property tax revenue to the county side, in order to keep their side of the budget, the tax rate down. So that artificially inflates ours because we're not sharing in that piece of it. So when, you look at it, the county, and I wrote some notes, but the county had $149 million last year. This year they're going up to $159 million. So, they're increasing on their side of the budget as well.
But do you take the $91 million just because you can? Like you said, you live here too. You're going to have to pay this tax rate along with the rest of us.
Here's where the dialogue's got to change. Okay. And this is part of the issue that we've got, as taxpayers in Union County, that we've got to, as elected officials, we've got to stop trying to scare the electorate to choose sides. This isn't a sides issue. Mm-hmm. It's about the taxpayers. Yeah. It's about the kids. And we've got to stop, having conversations that say, well, we managed to do all these things, but then the school system came along and we had to do this. It's not productive. It's all one bucket of money. It all comes from the same place. It comes from the three of us in this room and everybody listening.
But we can't tell the Board of Education how to spend that money. That sticks in my craw. If I'm smart enough to come up with a plan where I can save the school board some money,
right?
You request a certain amount of money. I either give it or I don't. And if I don't, we may wind up in court as we are. But if I do, I can't tell you, well, by the way, you really ought to do this or not do that. This would save you some money, like that.
I don't know if tail's the right way. I think for a lot of people, they feel like, and it may be just a matter of perception, but I think they feel like that the county doesn't have the right to ask. It's not so much that we tell you how to spend the money. It's that a lot of people feel like they don't. It's like either we're going to give it to you or we're not, and then when we do, don't ask us what we're going to do with it because it's none of your business. That's just a perception.
That is the perception.
Well, and that should not be the perception.
I agree,
because we are the perception has been over the years that the county commissioners are at this level, and then that you come down a step or two, and you got the Board of Education. Well, the way that the legislature set this up is we are two co-equal boards. So do you go tell the county how to spend the money? I mean, if you go have a conversation with them to say, well, wait a minute.
They kind of did, Richard, because they said, well, y'all got the money, just write the check. I mean, that was going on for a long time, and the county would come in and say, we don't have the money. We don't have the check. Sure. You remember that.
No, I remember all of that. And I know that we can go back through and I can take you through the certified audits and show you where money is and all of that. All right. That's doable. But the dynamics got to change. You've got two co-equal boards elected by the same people.
Yeah.
All right. So if you as an elected as a taxpayer don't like how the school system's spending the money, then vote somebody else in.
I would much rather do that than try to see legislation passed where the school board is thrown out. I never agreed with that. That made no sense to me. If you don't agree with the board, get out the people on that board that you don't like by voting other people in. That's our process.
Correct. And that's whether it's the school board, whether it's the county commissioners, whether it's your state senate, your state representatives, the sheriffs. But we've got to, I have never told the county commissioners, any of them, that we would not listen to where they thought we should spend the money.
Didn't they recently suggest taking over, maintenance or something?
They want to take over ownership of the buildings.
Okay.
And again,
and maintain these buildings.
They are legally obligated to maintain the buildings now.
Right. Okay.
All right. Mm-hmm. And they do that through us.
Mm-hmm.
So and this was part of what the lawsuit last year was about, because they wanted to give us $3 million, and we were asking for more than $3 million. And we said, we can't, it's not enough money. 2012, you gave us $0 for capital. So we're behind the eight ball. We're behind. We've been deferring maintenance. We've got to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of where it all started. There's 6 million square feet of roof in Union County for public schools. It's a 6 million square foot physical plant. Okay. So that means we spend, according to Nelson Hall and Associates, we should be spending somewhere between $3 and $4 million a year just on roof maintenance.
So what about when the inspector came in and couldn't find all these leaks that had been reported?
Right.
What's up with that?
He came in and they were looking for structural damage.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the leaks that they were reported, I think we went to, was it an Indian Trail that you're talking about?
The example given was Indian Trail Elementary.
Okay. So we look at Indian Trail, and the thought process is the inspector couldn't find the leaks. Yeah. Well, it's because we patched the roof.
It already been fixed.
Yes. But the question is, whose responsibility is it? Well, it's our responsibility for finding it and identifying it and taking care of it. And then in our budget, we go back and say, look, we're starting to have problems with this roof. We need money for, on our capital side to start replacing some roof sections. It's not a whole roof, but roof sections. But we're not going to leave children sitting there.
Yeah.
Now, you go down to, Parkwood, you go to Sun Valley, you go to Forest Hills. We're trying to patch those roofs, but we're patching patches. Now, the fortunate thing is that it hasn't caused a ton of structural damage. If there has been issues, our staff has fixed them. Well, all right, but we're pulling money out of places we shouldn't have to pull money from to go do that.
All right, so why not let the county take over the buildings? And then there would be their responsibility to fix
It's their responsibility now.
Okay. So you don't see
Okay,
them.
let's change it. They would be they would have to answer for it in that situation.
What's the county say the advantage is to letting them take over the building?
Yeah, that's a good way of asking it.
That I haven't had that specific conversation with any of them. I'm going to make the assumption is that it takes the biggest part of the contention out is that we are, that we have this maintenance that has to take place annually on these buildings. And, if we don't have to fight over this piece of the money, because they're legally obligated to provide the funding for that.
On
the
outside looking in, that looks like a great idea if we can get rid of any contention. A lot of people think these boards could get along a whole lot better if they just talked to each other more or had
and we did that this year. And I don't think anybody thought that this was an overly contentious budget year.
But we're in court over $91 million.
But that was from last year, not this year.
But I know, but the whole way it's set up, where Board of Education requests money, the commissioners always say that's too much, can't do it.
Sure.
We arbitrate. I mean, how many millions of dollars were we apart that created the going to court over? 6 million?
Yeah, we had cut from in the double digits down to about 8.3 million, almost 9 million.
Let's say we're 9 million apart. And
So-
now we're 91 million apart because of this jury verdict. And I'm just saying, yeah, you can justify every penny, but we all got to live here.
The
And
taxpayers can't.
The taxpayer on the fixed income can't. Rich, they can't do it.
Well,
They can't pay it.
and understand, we're not trying to hurt any of the taxpayers of Union County.
But just because you have a $91 million verdict, you were asking for 9 million.
Right, and then
Could
we
you
would have asked for more. Now we've offered to settle, to lower the number. We offered every day of the trial to settle, to not continue.
Did you throw a number out?
In the offers during the trial, no, because we needed to get out of the trial and go sit in a room and talk.
Mm-hmm.
So those things have happened, but it's the general consensus at this point in time. From a handful of the commissioners that they want to just play out the appeal, let it play out, win, lose, or draw. Mm-hmm. That just needs to play out. We're on the docket now. So, they're turning in, they've got till the end of August I believe, to get their brief turned in. We'll have 30 days to turn a brief in. And there'll be oral arguments at that point, at some point, I suspect. And then, the appellate court's going to have it.
And we're already, about $2 million in legal fees?
Yes.
This thing.
I think just to simplify all of it, and I don't think this is any spin that the commissioners are putting on. I don't think it's any spin the school board is putting on it. But people's perception of it is, you went to court over, and I'm just say $10 million, and then the judge, for whatever reason, said, jury award, do what you need to do, and they said $91 million. So for a lot of people, they look at it as, well, why don't y'all just give them the $10 million and let's get on out of this court thing, because that's what they wanted.
Well, and the county has given.
County gave us the money that we were asking for from the verdict, and then we went to them and said, look, we've got, if you remember back over the wintertime, we had a real spread of rain, and then it got real cold.
Yep.
And that really exacerbated some roofing issues. So if you go drive by, Wesley Chapel Elementary or Sun Valley, you'll see all the work going on and all the roofs.
And that's just common sense. I mean, we had, with the kind of winter we had, it messed roofs up.
But again, that's the process working the way that it's supposed to work.
So the county has funded your original request.
After the jury awarded, right. And then that was credited towards the jury award.
Okay. Now, one final thing, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, but this is what comes up in conversation with us more than anything, and this is what really upsets people. Now, with the funding that you asked for being done, the $91 million in court and possibly appeal, we don't know how that's going to turn out. the thing we hear the most is say, and the teachers still haven't gotten a raise.
Exactly.
All right.
And I hear that every day. We're talking about all this money, and the teachers are still not being,
and the assistants will still be pawned.
They're still not getting a raise. And what the governor's talking about doing is still going to take teacher assistants out of the class.
Well, the governor's not talking about teacher assistants coming out of the classroom. The Senate's talking about teacher assistants coming out of the classroom.
Yeah.
So the governor and the House are the House side and the governor are looking for a lower teacher pay raise and keeping the teaching assistants.
Okay.
Remember, we have these things called read to achieve. We need our teaching assistants because by the end of the third grade, you got to be reading at grade level. We need those folks in there, and we're fighting for those folks.
And the Senate group wants a higher raise, but and they'll help fund that.
They want to get rid of tenure, long-term pay, and they want to do away with teaching assistants.
No, we're losing. I don't need to tell you, we're losing good teachers
and principals.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to right here and stop talking state level. In the money that we got this year awarded, for our budget, we will be taking care of, our locally paid teachers, our supplement. So we're going to do that. We're going to spread that money around as best we can. We're going to try to touch as many people as we can with it. And we gave a list to the county of how we would spend that money.
Mm-hmm. What percentage? What percentage of a raise would it be to the teachers?
Well, for the local supplement piece, I don't have the numbers in front of me, Archie. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can get that back, but
and it's just
very, very frustrating. Teachers are so important, as are their assistants,
right?
And they deserve a raise.
Well, and again, we've got federal money, state money, and local money, and our local dollars go to pay a supplement. And the local money is going to bring the local supplement up to, I think, 2011 or 2012 state average. So we still, even with what the commissioners are doing, which is a good thing, but we're still not bringing them up to 2014's state average. Mm-hmm. But we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, because we're 46th in the nation?
46th in the nation for that. And we are, and we're particularly hurt because the proximity we are to Mecklenburg County, who pays a little over $5,000 more a year if you just come across the South Carolina. But see, we're also losing principals. So, you can have a young teacher and a strong principal and do okay. Mm-hmm. But you can't have a young new principal and a bunch of young new teachers. That's not such a good mix. So it's the teachers we've got to keep, but we got to keep our assistant principals. We got to keep our principals. It's all of them. We're losing bus drivers. We're Charlotte Mecklenburg's greatest training ground for bus drivers. We get them a CDL, which costs us money.
Yeah.
And then we train them up for a year or two. And then for 50 or 60 cents, they head over the line. We were short. We started last year, the beginning of the school year last year, short bus drivers. And you can't just get one because they've got to go through.
Oh, yeah.
They got to get a commercial driver's license. Right. And not everybody can get a commercial driver's license.
It's true.
Well,
Richard, we certainly appreciate you coming on as you always do. Richard Yercheck, chairman of the Union County Board of Education. You never shied away from coming on with us, and we appreciate the open dialogue that we've had with you.
Happy to be here and happy to live in Union County.
Well, it's just, people are always afraid of what they don't understand, and it's a shame that they keep getting information thrown at them that sometimes I don't want to say not right, but information, it's never news. It's always seems to be spun one way or the other, and people get it, and then they run with it, and they talk about it, and then you hear something from the other side, and that sounds good, and you take that and you run with it, and it's nice to just have somebody come in and say, all right, here's the deal, this is what's going on, and the 91 million, we just don't know. I mean, that's the honest answer. If you ask any commissioner, any school board member, we don't know. It's in appeal. That's all. That's all there is to it. And you remember you saying you only speak for yourself because you're only one vote on the board. But you, if that money is awarded, would push personally for having that structure, not saying, all right, we want our money today. Back the truck up and give it to us.
That is correct.
All right, well, thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
You got coffee and a donut? It's been a good day.
I love the Dunkin' Donuts, man. We're doing good.
We'll be back right after this. Y'all stick around. Board of Breakfast Club coming up. This is the Mighty 1190.